Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Voice of the Teacher. Some time ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with a good friend of mine by the name of Jonathan Sixtos. He's a veteran teacher back in my hometown of Victoria, Texas. He's an award winning teacher and a great guy. Uh, we've maintained a relationship throughout the years, and when he found out I started this podcast as an outgrowth of my master's program, he and I got to visit him about several things, and then one day we hopped on a Google Meets phone call and we chatted about something. And we're calling that something we chatted about it culture builders, building the culture of the school. We could discuss a lot of different things. So just letting you know, we're breaking this down into multiple parts for your viewing and listening convenience. And we are going to make this as fun and exciting as possible. And we really hope you enjoy it. So stay tuned. One part will be released each week. And now get ready for part one of Culture Builders.
No, why don't you just tell us about yourself?
Okay, my name is Jonathan Sixtos. I am in my 10th year of public education, and I've had a lot of fun while I've been at it. All 10 years here in Victoria ISD, and as Jacob mentioned, 2016 state semifinalist for Texas Teacher of the Year. So, nominated by campus admin, did some application processes and different things. I've been involved with item review for the STAR test for about 7 or 8 years with TEA, Pearson, ETS. I've also worked with College Board, editing one of the Springboard editions for my freshman English classes, taught AP language, and this year I'm actually teaching all 4 levels of high school. So freshman English, sophomore and junior dual credit classes, and first time adventure, senior business English, and it has been a blast.
Wow. So that's what, 4 or 5 preps?
The dual credit ones, it's more of a monitoring and kind of a support teacher, but and then we're also starting a district media project called Titan Warrior Media Productions, and we are starting a film crew on each campus. We got started a little ahead of our crosstown rivals, and we're actually interviewed by the Advocate, the Victoria Advocate. And today I just get my coffee at a gas station. I'm like, hey, that's my face there on the front page of the newspaper. And so they're featuring the kids and everything that's going on. And we are excited to showcase all the wonderful things that are happening on campus. And I've loved media and technology for years, and I'm just in my bag.
And see, I think that's great because it gives kids a lot of hands-on experience. Like, how many kids do you think are going to come out of this and they're like, hey, we actually might want to go work for the local television station, or we might want to go work for an online newspaper? Like, do you see any of that happening in particular?
Vocationally, I don't know yet. The project's still pretty young. We've got 2 episodes of the can. We've got another one coming up in November, East versus West. We're going to kind of joint film the episode with West. But I've had a lot of kids telling me, hey, this is going to help my communication skills in whatever field that I go into. So maybe not broadcast journalism as a career, but taking these communication skills into whatever career they choose.
Nice. I think that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, and this is a district level initiative.
Yes. So the executive director of communications and public relations wrote a Grants for Great Ideas. We have this educational foundation every year. They give money and award money to grant ideas. And she wrote a grant for East and a grant for West. So we were able to purchase recording equipment, tripods. We've got iPad Pros with apps on there to edit video. We've got the wireless microphones and all the fun stuff that we need. And now we're already talking about doing field trips and presenting for other districts. And even we're looking, hopefully sometime in the spring, to go to a university with an actual recording studio and shooting some footage there.
Wow. Yeah, that's some very forward. My hats off to the leader who thought of that. That's a very forward thinking idea. I like that. So on that note, you seem very excited about it. Like, I followed you, your career since I was an intern over at East High School back in the day. You still seem like you're excited about teaching. So what led you to be a teacher?
It probably would boil down to family experiences. My mother was the children's church coordinator at our local church for over 25 years. So growing up, we were her guinea pigs. She would try things out on us. So I know all the coloring books and all the Bible stories front to back, obviously. but I've always had this desire to just see how the mind interacts with information, new information. I have a family member who has wrestled with a disability because of a traumatic brain injury. And so
Mm.
that kind of steered me towards the psychological aspect and learning more about that. I minored in psychology in college when I graduated from Texas State University
Oh,
in
wow.
December of 2012. And so I kind of focused on adolescent development through my psych minor, but just marrying those two, not just giving the information as a teacher, but understanding the holistic recipient of that information, the student.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so, with all that being said, what led you to go? You just talked about the psychological side of it. What led you into the English side of things? Like, how did you decide that you wanted that to be your primary content?
You know, that's a fun question, Jake, because up until about my sophomore year, I thought I was going to be a science teacher. I grew up watching Bill Nye, the Science Guy, and I was just enamored with physics and biology and all these different things. But when I took chemistry in high school, I just could not balance the formulas. And I was a good kid in math. I never took pre-cal. I went straight to college algebra, but I just was so frustrated with the formulas. And that was the first year in high school that I made it to the state competition in UIL ready writing. And I kind of stepped back and looked and said, you know, I'm pretty good at this English stuff. Let me give it another shot. And the rest, as they say, is, well, it's not history. I guess it's English, but that's what I went ahead and went into. But I'll tell you why I love teaching English so much, because we can incorporate every other content area. We can read articles
Right.
about government and psychology and science. We just yesterday were talking about cell phone addictions, and we were reading an article from the Wall Street Journal about how dopamine receptors are just going nuts because we never put our phones down. And I enjoy bringing all things relevant to my kids into my English classes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great thing to do. When I remember when I was teaching English, I used to say the exact same thing. That's the hub.
Oh, yeah.
That's the hub. You can talk about just about anything. And so, with that being said, how do you balance? Obviously, there's a way we all have to go about lesson planning. You probably work with several different teams, but how do you balance that creativity of, I'm going to talk about this with, I'm going to meet the state standards?
I think the boundaries are always helpful. And as a new teacher, sometimes we try and cling to our idealism and say, you know, they're holding me back and they're stifling my creativity. But the boundaries are there to protect everyone. They're there to
Right.
protect you and your yearly evaluations that are coming, whether you're ready or not. They're there to protect the students, because we are not gatekeepers of knowledge. Like, these kids need to know what I know and they have to hear what I have to say. And I think that the state standards do a good job, having worked through several generations already of TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, directing the learning for the students. And that's what it comes down to. Where are we leading, not just giving them information, but where are we leading the students to explore? And I think that there is a space for creativity within that. We have a good lesson plan template where we allow, it's not rote minute by minute, but we have structures in place. Okay, we need to cover this skill today. Maybe I'm going to use a different text. Maybe I found something on YouTube last night that's a little more appealing to my kids. Well, let me use that in the classroom within these boundaries that keep everybody safe, and still express that creativity with support, knowing I'm going to close the lesson on time. They're still going to be able to analyze a poem, read an author's message, subtext, and figure out this is the tone, this is the message of the author. So I think that creativity within boundaries is actually amplified, whereas sometimes people think, well, these boundaries are stifling me. But just raw, unrestrained creativity might lead kids down the wrong path. Not, you know, teaching them to do bad things, but if we're preparing for poetic analysis and I'm all wrapped up in a political debate, well, we can save that for another time. Let's save that for persuasion. Let's save that for rhetoric. So I think that the state standards give us direction to channel our creativity.
Right. Yeah. Well said. And the cool thing about standards, like any other document, it's a living document. They'll get revised eventually. If, you know, I remember when they redid them a few years ago when I was teaching English, people were all excited about it. They're like, we're finally getting some stuff we don't like out of there. So, you know, I guess that just to piggyback off what you're saying, if there's something that drives you nuts, just hang on. It'll probably get changed in a couple of years anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,